Hey, everybody, you're going to want to listen all the way through this episode because we have got some sound advice on how to just sort of release things that might be missing from your life. You'll find in this show and on the dance floor.
We're also going to talk about the impact of social media and how it can be very challenging for young artists to be out and about these days in the music industry. So that's all coming your way. Thanks for listening and watching. Enjoy the show, everyone.
Oh, hi, y'all.
Oh, is that because you're wearing your Kentucky shirt?
Yes.
Shane will be a happy man, Sharon.
Hi, Shane.
You just gave everyone a cleavage shot for those who are watching this. And for those who are listening to
Nice
this,
try. That's the one that you're just trying to get the people that aren't watching.
you need to check out the YouTube channel for this.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure. I'm in a cotton t-shirt.
Is this your OnlyFans start, Sharon?
Oh, yeah. Look at this. And my shirt says Kentucky on it because we were gifted that from Kentucky Shane, our one prince.
Yeah. Sharon, quick thing before you start. I was looking over our statistics today
Statistics.
on the big podcast, visual and audio. And
Yes.
big shout out to our fans from Brazil.
Ooh.
We have a large contingent
Hola.
of Brazilian listeners / watchers of this show. So
Wow.
thank you, Brazil.
It must be the cotton fabric that is a big sell.
Clearly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, would it be gracias?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Sounds good.
They're probably going, we're out.
Yeah.
We gave you a shot. Goodbye.
Yeah. Hasta luego. Yeah.
Yeah. See, so for the show, we've got a few things to get to, not the least of which is the fact that Paula Abdul has been wrestling with some things lately.
Yeah.
You'll see how clever that tie-in is in a second. Also, how Tears for Fears saw their future slightly differently than what we've been enjoying. We'll get into Kelly's trivia, and she'll let us out. Fingers crossed. Yep. Your 90s rewind will take us back to the beginning of our favorite decade. And for all the boy bands that our favorite decade has given us, that would have inspired the likes of many that followed, including One Direction. The sad news of Liam Payne hit us in the last week and a bit. So let's start there. The sad and sudden loss and quite a few things going on around the whole story. And I think they will be investigating this for a little bit. So sadly, I mean, the sad reality is he's gone and the fans are devastated. His bandmates are devastated. What do you think?
Well, as you mentioned, as you know, we're recording this, the situation is still fluid. And I say that in the fact, like, yes, we know he's passed away. We know drugs were involved, like all that stuff. But the situation is fluid in the fact that, like, they still don't know exactly what went sideways on him, you know, like why, but and I've been hearing stuff too. And I'm saying this now because I don't have confirmation of this, but it sounds like he got some challenging news in the last month that, like, his record label dropped him, apparently. So I'm saying apparently / allegedly because I don't have confirmation of that.
Right.
But from what I've also been gathering over the last several days, from different articles I've read and some commentary on social media, and even just from my own recognizance, I guess, if you'll say that, like, I don't think his last single and where he was headed went where he thought it was going.
Right.
He had wiped his social media, like his Instagram. I don't follow him on other platforms, but I noticed that I don't know if it was March or May of this past year. He seemingly had wiped his Instagram account to then start, like, this new era of this new project that he had, which I only knew of the single Teardrops.
Okay.
And he actually did that with another boy bander, JC Chazé from NSYNC.
Right.
And I listened to the song, but it wasn't anything that, it wasn't sexy back. You know what I mean? It wasn't even stripped that down, which was his. So I just don't think it went anywhere. I know our station didn't play it. I don't even know if we played it once. Like, you know how we sometimes premiere stuff? Like, I don't even think we premiered it.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I have a feeling that was a letdown to him, that it didn't go where he thought it was probably going to go or hoped that it would go. And then it sounds like he was telling people around him that he was sober over the last X amount of months, but clearly he's not. And
Right.
then as you and I were about to record this today, I sent you an article earlier, either last night or this morning. I can't remember when I sent that to you, but it just talked about like how many different drugs were in his system. So he
Yeah.
clearly was not doing well. And again, I was never following his like social media stories, like whether it was on Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform he was on. I think he was also on Snapchat.
Okay.
I think he was very, I think he was more vocal on those because as you and I have discussed, I particularly like I'm a like an Instagram, like that's my thing. Like post a
Hmm.
picture, post a little video, I'm good. But I don't
Yep.
check out people's stories very much. But I think he was mentioning over X amount of time, whether it was this year, last year, the struggles that he'd been through. And then, you know, he had gone to rehab at some point, and for whatever reason, he slipped off the rails. But it feels like I just don't think, and this is my assumption, I don't have confirmation of this. I just think his career was not going how he wanted it to. I think he was so used to being a part of that band, even though the band's been disbanded or on hiatus for X amount of years now since, well, it'll be 9 years that they're on hiatus this year. And
9 years.
yeah, because they went on hiatus in 20
Wow.
end of 2015. And you know, and then he sees like, you know, Harry Styles is doing very well. And even
Yeah.
Niall Horan, who he was in, you know, Argentina to see,
Right.
um, like I knew Niall's career was going well, but I didn't know it was going that he was filling out like stadium well, like or like arena well.
Wow.
Because Niall's always sort of so down key about things or low key about things, and like he's not pumping out big dance hits or whatever. It's like a singer-songwriter vibe that he's got going on. And
Yeah.
so I
Hmm.
had, and again, I don't follow him religiously, but when I saw like the crowds in the arena, I was like, way to go, Niall. Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
I just don't think that was happening for Liam. And I think he was lost.
And I think you're probably right with all of that. And like, that's probably the downside of instant success is that you expect that it's always going to be there. But the reality is that, and maybe nobody told
Yeah.
them, or maybe somebody did tell them, and you just, I mean, you crave what you crave in the rush of a success like One Direction had. But like, it's constant work,
Hmm.
and you get to a point where people are they just love, they're just waiting for the next thing that you do. But at the same time, they become also critical and their expectations are at a different level. I think of U2's new song. It's not getting rave reviews from everybody, which is interesting because they're at a level now where they're more than 40 years in, and you think like, okay, well, anything you release, we're going to like. I like it, but I've heard mixed reviews from other people, and I think, well, this is a band that's, you know, still evolving and going back and trying to go forward and just trying, period. That's the creative process. Certainly their livelihood is not resting on one single at this point. They've got quite a career behind them. But for someone like a Liam Payne, you want to make sure that that they know that you may not hit it as big as you ever did, but you got to keep going. It's for the art of it. And I would venture to say that your decision making process and the clarity with which you perceive things is completely muddied when you're enjoying some of the excess of the success you've achieved.
Yeah. And I don't think he wanted to be on those, you know, drugs. I think that it was helping him cope. Obviously not in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing too, and not that any of this is funny, but I remember when he dropped Strip That Down, which we still play on our station,
Yep.
that he collaborated on with Quavo, you know, that song was kind of instant success for him. And it was funny because when he released it, I was like, oh, like he seemed to be the most top 40 of the bunch,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I was like, oh, like if he's going to keep releasing songs like this should work for him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, but it's just, I don't know, like, and Sharon, like, I'd love your thoughts on this. I think when you look at a boy band, you can kind of see who's going to be the guy.
Often, yeah. And
And
that's partly, I think that's part of the equation of when they're put together, when they're assembled, because they think further down the road of that. Okay, well, we have you as a group of 4 or 5 young good looking boys, something for everyone to see and enjoy. And we see maybe two or three of you doing something else. And if you look back, it
Yeah.
was kind of that way with most of them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too, how like certain groups, like New Kids on the Block, they
Hmm.
need to be all five because none of them really went off for solo success. Like Jordan Knight had a bit, and Donnie Wahlberg's been extremely successful in TV and acting.
Yeah.
But I don't think if Donnie Wahlberg went off to be solo singer, it would
No,
work.
no.
But it's really interesting to watch. And like, even like I said, I was very like surprised. And I knew Niall is a very good musician. Like he plays guitar, like all that stuff. But I never expected him to be doing this well. And I'm very happy. But it's like you knew Harry Styles was going to
Yeah.
be a something. And Zayn also, because he's got that moody kind of thing going on and whatever. But even him, like, he's not doing what he was when he first released Pillow Talk, you know?
Right. Hmm.
Um, so and it's even interesting when you watch like a girl group like Fifth Harmony. Camila Cabello, she left early and she blew up, and she's now like, you never even almost think of her as part of Fifth Harmony. It's like she's Camila Cabello.
Hmm.
Then you look at some of the other ones, and some of them do have like X amount of level of success, but they're not all killing it. Yeah.
No. And that's part of the journey. The whole thing, nothing is guaranteed. So whatever your best laid plans are as band management, they know that it's not guaranteed. So,
Yeah.
which is why they become fickle in the end, that if you don't strike it big all the time, they can cast you aside, and really it sort of messes with your emotions and
Yeah.
stuff. And if you're not equipped to handle it, and if you're letting the party side of things in a little bit too much, which sometimes you don't have control over because you think that you're just having fun with your peers, and you don't recognize that it might be grabbing hold of you more than you know.
Yeah.
And then once you do realize it, it's not that it's too late, but it's a totally different approach to what you have to do to get off stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do feel very bad. And I encourage anybody who hasn't had a chance yet to check out his sister's his sister Ruth. She wrote an amazing social media post on her Instagram.
Hmm.
So just Google like Ruth, like Liam Payne's sister, because it's a bit of a weird Instagram handle.
Hmm.
But I think it was the last line she wrote, and I almost started bawling when I read the last line, which was something to the effect of, I would, because she mentioned in her whole post how much she would often drive to go see him, like
Hmm.
like when he was auditioning on X Factor, when they started to blow up, like she would always drive. Like she actually got her license because she needed to drive to London to go see him.
Oh, wow.
And so her last line of the post was something to the effect of, I would drive to the end of the universe to bring you back.
Oh.
And I just was like, oh my God. And of course, like I feel so bad for his son Bear, who is now going to grow up without his dad. And I also want to give a shout out to his ex Cheryl, who is the mother of Bear. She wrote such a poignant post on social media. She just said, like, please be careful what you're writing, and she was talking to like anybody and also like news media. She's like,
Hmm.
because I will not be able to protect my son when he's older to go back and find this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was what a brilliant thing to say. And hopefully it went into somebody's head to not
Hmm.
post something stupid. So,
Amazing that you have to think that way. That comes with the territory, obviously, but that you have to make a plea like that
yeah.
for the future of your family.
Yeah. But that's the world we're living in, right? Because
Yep.
like the social media, and even like, I'm sure you heard like TMZ posted a picture, which they then had to take down because, and and normally like I'm actually a pretty big advocate for TMZ for the most part when it comes to factual information about stuff. They always seem to
Hmm.
get it right. Like, especially when
Yeah.
someone passes away or whatever. But
Yeah.
when they did this, I was like, who made that call? Like,
Yeah.
it was really, and it obviously upset a lot of people because some of the podcasts that I listened to were saying like, what were they thinking? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that didn't happen by accident, that's for sure. And I would venture to say also that under the banner of it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they no doubt knew what they were doing, trying to strike a chord, trying to
Yeah.
set themselves apart. That's part of what their gig is. But
Yeah. But
you
it's funny,
know,
like it's really, they've dimmed me right now for them. Like I'm
yeah.
dimmed
Oh
of,
yeah, for sure.
And
That's
I
the
know
risk.
that, yeah, because I just like, 'cause I really, I always think like, again, when it comes to like, they're usually factual about what, if someone's passed away, they, they have it and whatever. And I was like, that's great that they do that. But then to do this next step, I'm like, you didn't need to do that at all, zero,
Yeah,
at all,
exactly.
zero. And you've already set yourself, because even like, I was listening to like TJ Holmes and Amy Robach, like who used to be on Good Morning America. They have their own podcast, and I think I've told you that before. And they've worked in a massive newsroom at ABC News, plus all the other places they worked before they got to that level.
Yep.
And like TJ has even said, he's like, TMZ is usually on it about, whatever. And then, but I think he too was also like, what was this? Like,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, at least it's not just me that thinks this was a terrible decision.
Yep. Sadly, not the last terrible decision we will get to experience in our lifetime.
No.
We're going to hear from one of the OG rockers on the pressures of young people in the music business, as this theme will carry on, as 90s Now will carry on as well. We'll get to that after we do some trivia.
Here we go.
Chow chow, bing bong, yeah.
Sharona, would you like to start with news and politics or hobbies, toys, and games?
News and politics.
Here we are. The United States of America, experienced two damaging droughts and heat waves in the 90s. In which years were they? So I need 2 years in the 90s out of you, Sharon.
I'm going to go with 97 and 99.
So you were right on the second one, 99.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one was 1993.
Ooh, that popped in my head at one point. So anyway, I got one.
Close. Follow your gut, Sharon.
Yep.
So this is from Hobbies, Toys, and Games. In 1997, it was the first time that a personal computer could cost less than how many dollars?
What?
In 1997, it was
I like
the
how you
first,
shook your head first.
I'm
I don't
shaking
know.
because I also, in 1997, comma, it was the first time that a personal computer could cost less than how many dollars? Oh, I get it, because it was starting, the prices were starting to come
Okay.
because yeah, it was becoming more affordable. So
2000.
oh, that's a good guess. It was 1,000.
Ah, I was gonna say that was the first number, and I thought that sounds affordable.
Yeah. And as we like to laugh at my cards, it actually says 1,000, comma, ka-ching, exclamation mark.
Oh boy. Yeah. Okay.
Back
Well,
to you, Sharon.
I'm kind of 0.5 for 2. So
Yeah. Yeah.
not my best showing, Cal.
As long as you keep taking a swing.
Keep showing up to the game.
Yep.
So the OG that I was implying before is Bruce Springsteen, who shared some insight around the death of Liam Payne. And at 75 years old, he certainly has the experience. This is a guy that's been making music since professionally since the 70s, and before that as a young guy coming up. And what he was saying, that it's not an unusual thing that stars have to cope with life in the spotlight and all the things that come with it, and the lost element of what drugs and alcohol bring to the picture. You're sort of just getting along and you're having fun, but like we were talking about before, they grab a hold before you know it. It becomes a completely different problem, Yep. He was saying, that's not an unusual thing in my business. It's a normal thing. It's a business that puts enormous pressures on young people. He said young people don't have the inner facility or the inner self yet to be able to protect themselves from a lot of the things that come with the success and fame. So they get lost in a lot of the difficult and often pain-inducing things, whether it's drugs or alcohol, to take some of that pressure off. He says, I understand that very well. I mean, I've had my own wrestling with different things. And obviously the excesses, like we were talking about before, don't help, right? And aside from wanting to have some fun, and I think you get to a certain age in your life where you understand the idea of taking the edge off, like the happy hour approach of, oh, what a long day at work, whatever the work is. But certainly when it comes to show business, the pressure that is put on performers, artists, is kind of next level, and it always has been. But the way it's evolved with social media and the pressure to post and share and follow and all the things, and make sure that it's quality and etc. is a whole new thing. So taking the edge off, I think, might not come off. The edge might not come off with maybe just a beer at happy hour, which is, I think, what Bruce is kind of inferring.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, and should there be a class about it? Probably. There should be some. I know that professional athletes go through like an education program on how to speak to the media, which is why we often hear ridiculously obvious quotes from players when they come off the ice or they come off the football field or they come off, I think especially hockey. We see a lot of hockey here because we're in Canada. But when they, we've just got to play great defense and we got to put pucks in the net. Like, yeah, you do. Thanks for the quote. And you're going to hear it again later. And it's all, they are taught how to do that. And I think that artists would benefit from a lesson on how to be in the media, not in the media, but in the celebrity of their own career.
Yeah, agreed. And I
So,
think too, like we've talked about her before, but Chapel Roan, and I know some celebrities who've gone through it before have reached out to her.
yeah.
But I think it almost like there needs to be a sorority or whether it's guys or gals,
Hmm.
people take the time to reach out and help, because unless you've gone through it, like you don't know,
How could you?
and you're sorely, I think the pressures of the social media aspect of it, because I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, but I think it was the Shannon Doherty one. And
Hmm.
I believe, I'm going to say this, I think it was her and Brian Austin Green talking, I think, but it was one of the 90210 things. Anyways, I believe they talked about how like it was a good thing in the 90s there wasn't what we have now, because they were able to kind of go out to clubs, figure it out, be a bit
Hmm.
messy, and then get their life together and be adults. And now celebrities who are 16, 17, 18, they don't have that. Like you go anywhere and you're filmed, you're being recorded, you're getting a picture taken. Like you can't mess up and figure it
No.
out after. If you mess up, like somebody's got it somewhere.
And I think that we're going to see a lot more of that sort of weird news come as the whole um, Sean Combs case persists. There's going to
Yeah.
be a lot more that we'll find out about that kind of thing
Yeah.
uh, for young artists and their affiliation with him or at that time. So yeah, sad but true. It'll get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Paula Abdul wrestling with some things, and it's a new movie.
Yeah.
What's kind of cool is that she's got it right. She's going to be starring in a new wrestling movie called Raging Midlife. She won't be wrestling, but from what I understand, she and her co-star in the movie are um, midlife and
Yeah.
both interested in the same wrestler. Is that correct?
Sounds accurate to me.
Well, go Paula, go. Sadly, I don't recognize any names on the list that that she's in this movie with, but at the same time, I don't recall seeing her in a movie as any or on screen as anybody other than herself.
Hmm.
So good for her for trying something new.
Yeah, I think they said in the article I sent you that she did something years and years ago as a character, but yeah, like I think she's mostly done cameos. And I think it's amazing that, like, again, because with everything that she has accomplished, she could just sit on her laurels. But she's continuing to push and be artistic, and like she was just out with New Kids on the Block, I believe it was this summer, and then she had her own tour that she did in Canada. But it was funny, she never came to Montreal, which I couldn't understand that, like,
Hmm.
at all. But yeah, I think it's amazing that she's like, but I think like it's like when people talk about Janet and they're like, well, she could do nothing for the rest of her life. But I'm like, she's an artist. She has to create.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I'm similar to Janet in a way. Paula sings and she dances and she I think she likes to stay on the move, right?
yeah.
And no matter what your career choice is, we know as we get older, once you stop moving, that's when all the stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not a bad idea to keep moving and to keep your marbles moving
Yeah.
upstairs, you know?
Well, even you and I know, I think too, like when you are not on the air, let's say for 2 weeks or a week, and you come back, like it's only a week, but that first show, you're a bit rusty. Like
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
terrible, but it's like, whoa, like, because it's like when you're doing it every day or whatever, like you're in a rhythm, and when you're off, like, I mean, you need to be off, but you when you come back, it's
Yeah.
getting acclimated again.
Like a learning curve.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's fun.
yeah,
It's fun.
not that fun. No,
Not that fun at all.
no.
You know what? We're a little bit pressed for time, so I think we're going to talk about Tears for Fears
Yes.
next week so
Sounds
that we can make sure that we get to our 90s rewind and go back to the beginning of our favorite decade from around this time in 1990. Kelly, you will be happy to know my selection of songs all within the top 10 this week in 1990. And you know who was at the top?
Janet.
Yeah, with Black Cat.
Boom.
Boom, I love that song.
Yeah.
It's just so badass.
Yeah.
Uh not as badass. What is it? Give me a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Ice Ice Baby. Vanilla Ice was also in the top 10. Pebbles was giving us the benefit of the doubt.
Nice.
Mariah Carey, of course, the queen. Love
So,
Takes Time.
takes time. Okay.
Yeah. Remember After Seven?
Yes,
Wasn't Babyface's brother in that
I
group?
believe so.
Yeah, so think of, and didn't L.A. Reid and Babyface produce Pebbles?
That sounds also accurate.
So imagine they were having a very nice time around, the fall of 1990 when they have Pebbles in the top 10 and After Seven with Can't Stop.
Oh, that's a great song.
I
Love,
know.
such a good song.
I'm digging on you, you're digging on me, we're digging on we, right?
Yeah.
I think I just made that up, but whatever. Happy to see George Michael's name any time of day or year, but Praying for Time was soaring through our hearts at this time in 1990. In Excess and Suicide Blonde. And where were you? Which dance floor were you on when Black Box's Everybody came on in 1990? I think I was at a place called O'Toole's.
That's-
It was.
I remember whipping out that move to that song, the Running Man, at a karate Christmas party.
Oh,
That was
and what did they say? Oh,
they were like
Kelly.
they're like, look at the English girl dance.
And she couldn't hear them because she was wrapped up in the dance.
Yes. I think they were shocked though, because like I was pretty shy, like whatever. And then to see me like busting my Running Man, like they were shocked for sure. But I love dancing, and so that was my jam. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I have seen Kelly dance. She's a very talented dancer. So that's cool. I don't think anybody would think that out of the gate, but you are very good at dancing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So do you, Sharon. You have a good shimmy. We've danced together. It's great. Yeah.
Atu loves to dance. I love the concept of dancing too. I was thinking of how kids these days,
Yeah.
people that are, when I was 20, let's say, we were definitely at clubs.
Yeah.
Pubs, clubs, where there was a dance floor and cold drinks and fun people. We were there and dancing.
Yeah.
And that was the trick, because we would have, things to drink, but we danced.
Yeah.
So the hangover feeling wasn't that bad.
Hmm.
But I don't think that they have the dance outlet now.
A lot
Like,
of clubs are closed, right? In our city, anyway.
well, yeah. So, like, it's all well and good to have a house party, but when does the dancing happen?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a big chunk that's missing from young people, because it's
You
so
know what?
fun.
I think the problem is because I think it was my brother talking to me about this. Like he saw, or he knows, or because his kids are teenagers, that like it's a thing now not to go out because everybody's on their phone.
Right.
So they're not all hanging out like in person. They'll just text or message each other, but they'll be at home in the basement, like watching TV or whatever. So they're
Where's
not.
the dancing?
I know that should be a t-shirt. It's "Where's the dance?" That would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we should open a club for people to dance.
Yeah, exactly.
Because also I think it's important to know how to dance. When you think of the evolution of dancing and how it,
Yeah.
a lot was couples dancing. And then in the 80s, the split happened. Up until the 70s, people were dancing in pairs. And then in the 80s, it was a lot more me, me, me. And
Yeah.
now the people that do dance that are younger, they're jumping. There's a lot of jumping. Anyways, find your spot on the dance floor, make a dance floor, and just dance. Figure out how to do it and have fun with it, because man, it can be fun.
Yeah.
But back to it. That was your 90s rewind. And
job,
some free
Jerome.
advice.
Raise the roof.
Raise the
We've
roof.
covered quite the gamut on this show.
Oh my goodness. Full service.
Yeah.
See, Brazil, we are here for you.
Yeah. Gracias.
Gracias. And thank you, everybody, for finding us wherever it is that you do. We appreciate it. Any questions, anytime, feel free to reach out. We are all over social media. And we look forward to having you back. Thank you for listening to 90s Now. Still happening.